Before moving to Dubai, I found a job. If you're considering moving here, you're probably going to need a job too. But how do people really land a job here? Do you need a degree? Can you do it from abroad, or should you come here in person and do it? What are the job packages like, and are they even worth it? In this video, I'm breaking it all down. My personal story, and most importantly, what are your chances of finding a job in Dubai in 2025? So before I begin, I want to make it very clear, I'm not a recruitment professional. I'm just talking about my personal experience and sharing what I wish I knew when I was applying for a job, and hopefully it can help you out too. So my story began in December 2023, and that's the point at which we decided we wanted to work not just in Dubai, but somewhere within the region. We were open to working within Saudi, within Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, and actually Dubai was my second choice because my first choice was actually Abu Dhabi. In terms of searching for a role, I knew that I wanted to stay within the same industry that I worked within London, which is financial services. And what that meant is that I had enough skills that were transferable across into a role that I wanted to do within this region. And I think that's key as well, trying to stick within where your experience lies rather than branching out into something completely new, because for me, that would have meant potentially a step down in terms of seniority. I ensured that I looked for similar roles just within the region, and also I have a background working in international companies that made it easier for me to narrow down where I wanted to be. I was still open to the possibility of working for a local company and bringing some of my experience having worked at international companies too. After months of applications, conversations, networking, I eventually had a job interview come up. I went through a number of rounds of interview and eventually I was offered a role. So key considerations for job seekers, I'll say, are networking. It's vital out here. It's the way things are done. Things are very relationship driven. Cultural adaptivity is important because the way things are done in the workplace is very different to how that might be at home. And I'll go into a lot more detail about that in another video. Job seekers should be aware of the high cost of living. Even though you'll be getting a tax-free wage, the cost of accommodation here is very high. And that might be a lot higher compared to where you're used to at home. The cost of that accommodation is rising quite significantly each year too. So I'd say overall, Dubai's job market offers a range of opportunities for people with various backgrounds and different skills. The best way to put your best foot forward is to upskill as much as possible, offer things over and above your typical role. With that, you'll be able to stand out in what is a highly competitive environment. An important thing to note is that if you are going down the skilled labour route, you need to have a minimum bachelor's degree in order to apply for your visa here. This can be different from a lot of people's home countries, especially where you can be qualified by experience and you don't need to go down the university route. But in the UAE, you need to have that bachelor's degree if you're going to be skilled labour. The way this applied to me is I had a bachelor's degree. I then did a level of qualification which was higher because I did a professional accountancy degree, and even despite that, they still asked for my bachelor's degree and actually weren't that bothered about my professional qualification, even though it was a higher level. So a bachelor's degree is a must if you're applying for a job out here. So being on the ground versus searching from abroad. So being on the ground, what that means is being in Dubai, be that coming here for holiday or coming here specifically for a number of weeks in order to carry out your job search, versus maybe doing a search from your home country, and that is obviously predominantly going to be done online and maybe through phone calls. Is there an advantage to being on the ground? I would say yes, definitely. You're able to have in-person meetings and build connections with recruiters and hiring managers. You're able to show your personality up front, a bit more about your profile. Being on the ground also adds a bit more intention as well, showing how serious you are about a move. Even if you're here for a short amount of time, for example, we came before we moved to Dubai on holiday, and if you're able to spend a few days to meet those connections, you can then continue those relationships when you're back in your home country, and at least they would have met you in person so that you'll be front of mind. So let's talk about the Dubai job market. First and foremost, there's no personal income tax for individuals. So that means that all of your salaries, wages, bonuses, any interest you get, rental income, capital gains, all of that is tax-free for residents and non-residents as well. There are also no taxes on things like inheritance, gifts, or wealth, which is a big pull factor for a lot of people who want to come to the region. In terms of the companies that are here in Dubai, there's a real mix. In comparison to London, which is where I've worked for most of my life, there are not as many international companies, but there are still a lot of big names here. You then also have a number of more local or regional companies, which will be new names, maybe unfamiliar, and of course, a whole load of startup businesses as well. So Dubai is quite an entrepreneurial place. So what you'll find is there's a lot of growing companies who are scaling quite quickly. So there'll be a lot of job opportunities in those places as well. So in terms of competition for roles, you have to remember that in Dubai, you're competing globally. Everyone across the world wants to work here and they want to be able to land a role that can get them tax-free income. You're now competing against people from countries where they will be able to accept lower wages than you will have been in your home country. So you have to think about what skills you have and how you can differentiate yourself from those who may be coming from lower income countries than yourself. So in terms of what to expect from job packages here, once successful, you'll be offered a job package. More often than not, companies use your home salary as a guideline. So they may say they're going to pay you the same as your home salary. Even though this might sound like a step across, with the tax-free element, you're immediately at an advantage. Use this as a baseline and you can negotiate upwards. So for example, if you're getting a promotion, you'll definitely be able to negotiate up. Or if not, you may be able to get a 5 or 10% increase. It all depends on the role and what you're able to command and what value you're able to put forward. Other things to consider as well is linked to your visa. Your employer is also obligated to offer you a flight home at least every year or two. And this can vary. So I've been told from people who've been here a long time that the packages used to include things like business class flights home twice, 3 times a year. But I'm told that these are now scaling back a bit. So you'll definitely get enough for either a flight ticket, which is bought for you, or often they'll give you a cash reimbursement in order to pay for your flight home each year or two. It just depends on the company what you get offered. Medical insurance is also an obligation, so you'll be getting coverage for yourself, for your family in most cases than not. And this is great because in the UAE at least, most, if not all, healthcare is typically private, so you really need to ensure that you have coverage. In terms of hybrid working options, I've definitely found here that there's more of a lean towards being in the office than in the London market that I was from. I'd say in London, I would work remotely 3, sometimes 4 times a week, whereas here I'm doing the opposite. I'm working 3 to 4 times a week in the office, which isn't the end of the world for me. I'm used to an hour commute in London. Here it's half an hour. For me, it's not too much of a compromise to make. There are definitely some remote working opportunities as well. If you're fortunate enough to find these, it will mean that you can base yourself anywhere within the region and still be able to commit to your work environment. Now, if you're a teacher, as you probably already know, a lot of the schools out here cover education fees for your kids that you're bringing along with you. Some places offer it for 1 child or up to 2. It's, again, whatever you can negotiate as part of that package. If you're not a teacher, as most of us are not, you will have to pay for schooling out here, which is obviously going to be a different expense for most people coming from other countries. So some companies may offer schooling fee coverage where they pay for one or all of your children to go to schooling out here. Schooling is typically paid for in the UAE if you're an expat, and this will be very different from some countries like the UK where I'm from, where there's state-funded schools where you don't typically pay. Here, all schooling from nursery upward is paid for. So that's another consideration, especially when thinking about managing your costs. Schooling is quite expensive here and obviously becomes a multiple depending on the number of children that you have. Salary expectations have been quite flat in the region. So with a huge amount of people looking to move here, salaries are obviously under less pressure to rise because there's just so much demand of people who want to be on the ground in Dubai. So what are your chances of finding a job in Dubai? I would say it takes a lot of patience, a lot of hard work through networking and applications and tailoring your CV and your offering to really show your value in order to try and convert something. It's not impossible, as shown by myself. For me, all it started with is an idea that I wanted to move. And then once I put myself in that process, it then just took time. It may take months for you, it might take up to a year. All you have to do is start. That's the first step. Once you start, you'll then learn, adjust, and then you'll be in a better position to land that role that will get you to Dubai. Before you shoot me down, I know I haven't covered everything. There is way too much content for one video. So I've got another video coming soon where I'm going to explore the online search more, talk about networking, using recruiters, and any other tips I think will be useful to you if you're interested in finding a job in Dubai. Please drop a comment below. I want to hear from you about if you're interested, where are you at in your search? Are you struggling? Do you have any questions? I'd love to help. If anything I've said has been useful, please drop a like, please subscribe, and I'll be back very soon with some more content.